You know, as I've touched on a couple times during our conversation, I think it's very important that you pay attention to your student athlete and what they're looking for out of this. They're going to let you know when they want more, and they're going to let you know if what they're getting is sufficient. Yeah. I think as a parent, number one, don't be intimidated. I started right where they're starting. I didn't know anything about the game of lacrosse. Like I said, I couldn't spell it in high school. I couldn't spell it when I was 30 years old. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So don't be intimidated. Learn the game. Have conversations with your boys. Let the boys teach you about the game, because I see when the boys start playing, there's this joy. They're learning all this new stuff, and very rare does a kid not fall in love with the game of lacrosse.
Right.
But just talk to them. If they use a word that you don't know, ask them what it is. If they start talking about a slide, well, what's a slide? What's that? What's the right way to throw and catch? Why is this a penalty? Things like that. Don't be intimidated. I think coaching in the youth ranks is an awesome way to learn the game. It's like like I did. I often hear, well, I can't coach because I don't understand the game. Well, in the youth, it's really translates to other sports. And it's, like I said, it's about making sure the boys enjoy the game so they want to continue to play. I think that's one of the most important things outside of teaching basic fundamentals that we can do to foster the game and to grow the game, is make sure the kids fall in love with it so they want to keep playing.
So they want to work hard.
So they want to work hard, yes.
Okay. I like that, especially the one about don't be afraid to ask questions.
No, don't be intimidated.
Yeah. And you also mentioned getting involved. So that checks off one of my questions. So how should a parent, and again, you said this and we're just kind of going over everything, but what are some good ways that a parent can invest, right? When are some good times that they can invest in and intentionally growing that conversation? Or what are ways that you invested in Nolan's growth? Because you've told me a little bit about how you made him do a wall ball regiment and stuff like that. But what did you, or how can other parents intentionally grow their kid, right? They say, all right, mom or dad or whatever, I want to play college ball. I want to play college lacrosse, right? What do you do as a parent then? How do you not necessarily react, but what do you do then to foster that growth so that they say, this is my dream. I want to play college lacrosse. Okay, I want you to get those dreams. What do they do? How can they get their kid there?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something that I thought of myself. I realized that I had to step outside my little circle and look for help and look for answers. What do I need to do? When Nolan was younger, and Dad, I want more. Okay, so I started asking questions. What do I do? As far as wanting to play in college, one thing I think is important is, number one, you need to be realistic. The player needs to be realistic. You need to be realistic with your player. Get a good evaluation from someone that says, could he play in college? What level? Just to get a good idea. I often tell the boys that I coach and work with, if you want to play college lacrosse, you can play college lacrosse. Now, did I say you're going to play for Notre Dame or Duke?
Right.
No, I did not say that.
Right.
But there are so many opportunities for boys to play in college, and girls for that matter.
Yeah.
So I would recommend seeking outside guidance. Once you notice that your athlete wants more, don't be afraid to ask questions. Hey, what's the next step? What do I need to do? Where do I need to look?
What is there any advice that you want to give any parent outside of anything that we said? Is there any other kind of advice that you'd want to give to a parent in the sense of this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, um, you know, this is how you should, not necessarily, this is coming a bit from a bias, this is how you should treat a coach, this is how you should treat the ref, this is, whatever. But outside of really any of those things, is there any kind of advice that you would just look, like from the bottom of my heart, this is something I wish I had known when I was getting into this? What would that be?
Yeah, lacrosse, to answer that question, lacrosse has a very, very deep history going back to Native Americans. And I always talk to my son and players about that tradition and how this is a game that really needs to be played with respect. Respecting the other team, certainly respecting the officials, fans. Any player, I do not tolerate talking to officials. Or yelling at officials. I just do not believe in that coming from the players. Nolan, I always raised him that after a game, win or lose, if they made some bad calls against him, you always go up and thank the officials for their time. I think that's important. That all comes with the process. Just respect. I think that's an important part of lacrosse. I think for a parent, this would be a good activity to have with your son or daughter, your athlete. Is watch a movie called Broken Arrows.
Yeah, keep going.
I don't know. I think it just gives a good idea of what we were just talking about. How the everything, how it all comes together, the history of the game and everything.
It's actually actually a good idea. Crooked Arrows was such a.
Is it Crooked Arrows? Did I say broken? I can't even remember if it's broken
Crooked
or
Arrows,
crooked.
I think.
It's crooked.
I don't
always say
remember
broken. I don't know if it's
Crooked Arrows was such an integral part to my lacrosse career, because I remember my first spring game was against Butler, and we had a guy who lived in Indy, and we all went to his house before, and we watched the movie at his house before the game. And it is a great conversation piece to have with your kid. Not only about just the aspect of the game, but you can go anywhere from its corniness, its cheesy lines, it's a goofy movie, but it really does, that respect that you were talking about. And you can talk about the history because it covers all these things, and it's a fun way to bring up that conversation of toughness, of the the ability to be aggressive, the ability to hit someone hard, or that restraint. It's that gentle giant of I could still crush you, but I'm not gonna, kind of, that I think needs to be held in this sport. So that's actually really good. I think that's really awesome. Just as another question, what did you have Nolan do to prepare to grow as a sport, but what did you have him do to prepare for college? You said you've been doing this so often, but lacrosse-wise, what did you do to prepare him for that next level?
I've always tried to work with him on, knowing that I saw that he wanted to go to college. I've tried to work on a process with him, meaning, you've got a lot of things going. You have school work, you have lacrosse work that you need to get done, you have free time, social time, you have time you need to sleep. I've worked on, that process with him, trying to let him know what to expect. Get your schoolwork done, get your lacrosse work done, then go have fun. Go have fun. Don't try to procrastinate and put things off. Just work on that process and make sure you're getting good sleep and you're eating well. That's probably the biggest thing that I've done to prepare him mentally. Is learn how to handle all aspects that you will face. Back to when you're talking with your athlete, lacrosse is a very difficult game. It's a difficult game to learn. It can be very frustrating and very humbling, certainly. When you're talking to your athlete, and this is something I probably wasn't always the best at. Be patient, be empathetic with them. Once again, we're trying to foster that love of the game. Celebrate the small victories. I think that's important to, once again, to foster that desire, to fan that flame, so to speak, to keep them playing, because there's going to be plenty of bad moments and bonehead things that they do. Really try to focus on the small victories. Once again, you try to keep that flame burning. That's important.
I think that's so big. That's a huge point, I think, that needs to be made. And even honestly, as coaches, I think that's something we should be taking away more. Is we need to be celebrating the small victories, because there are so many. I mean, like I've said this before on the show before, but lacrosse is a game of mistakes, right? And it's how you respond to those mistakes is what really is really what shows your character, right? It really shows you how you are as a player. But that also goes into lacrosse is a game of mistakes, so let's celebrate the small victories that we get.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so as a parent, I think that's big. And even on the car rides home saying, hey, what did you do good? What did you do bad? Well, I did really bad on this, but I did this, right? Well, let's focus on that one good thing, right? Because then that does fan the flame of maybe I'm not, and that player is, maybe I'm not so bad at this because my parent is encouraging me to do that. And I think, for me, looking back on it, my growth as an athlete definitely came from my dad. A lot of my fond memories of my dad have been from working. My dad helping me hit a baseball. Growing up, my dad helping me throw a football, catching, whatever. I wanted to say I wanted to go to the next level in soccer. He pushed me to that next level in soccer. For the growth of an athlete, if you really want to get to that next level, I think it does stem from parents, but they also got to know, what to do to get their kid that way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you and Nolan have been just a model of how to do it right.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you being on the show.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Is there anything else we're missing? I keep saying that, but
yeah, something I think is important to foster love of the game is we have a very unique opportunity here in Indiana, in the fact that Notre Dame is South Bend is 2 hours from Indianapolis, 2 to 3 hours, easy drive.
Yeah.
If you have that lacrosse player who's really starting to get rolling, take a Saturday or a Sunday and go to Notre Dame in the spring and take in the campus and watch a lacrosse game up there. Nolan and I did that. We used to do that all the time and just really enjoyed it. And that helped to foster the love of the game, to see that high level. What are the high level guys? What do they look like? That's something that I recommend. I mean, just a day in South Bend at Notre Dame in the spring is beautiful in itself.
You're right, yeah.
To see a lacrosse game, to see a high level, and the nice thing is tickets are very reasonable, and so to take a family, it's a fun day, and it's very inexpensive, and just a really good experience.
Awesome.
To do. So that's something I would recommend.
Awesome. Notre Dame. I mean, you can't go wrong with Coach Corrigan.
I do think it's important as the athlete progresses that the parents, they love the game too. I think that relationship is really what fuels the player to want more. If their parents are involved in the fact that they enjoy the game, they like the game, they're providing the opportunities that they want to get better. That's important. As the travel programs, as you play in those, I think it's important to play against the best competition you possibly can, because once again, going back to your athlete, if they want to go and play at the next level, play in college, I think it's just so helpful and really necessary to see, hey, where do I fit? Where are the best guys? What do they look like?
Right.
What do I need to do to get there? I think that's important to see that and to play against that.